morning and welcome back. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be finishing off our watercolour card. So, where are we starting? Last time we did our watercolour stamping, which is where we did our stamping in an archival ink, and then we've gone over the top with really bright, vivid watercolours. So I was using the Derwent Inktense, and this is what we came up with. And we got to the point where we'd applied all of our watercolour and we needed to allow it to dry. Now, we can go back into this now and actually stamp over the top. So, if you still have your stamps mounted on your stamp platform, then you can actually line your card back up inside and we should be good to go. So I'm just going to move my magnets and make sure that if you're using a sticky mat, it's lined back up into this corner, and we're going to do the same with our card. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything should be back in the same place. Now you are going to need your magnets because your watercolour card will have cockled a little. And good morning, Linda. Good morning, Mum. So, magnets in, and then we can start to work with our colour. So, as we've already done all of our watercolour bits, the choice of ink is entirely up to you. You could go for Distress Oxides, you could go for a water reactive ink pad, as in dye pad, if you want to. It's not going to matter. It's not going to run at this point because we're well and truly dry. So, I'm going to go for Scorched Timber. Okay, so let's just check that everything is lined up before I ink anything, and I suggest you do the same. That's all looking pretty good. So let's open that back up and we can put our ink on our places that need it. So some elements you might go, actually you can see round this bit, the hedgehog really clearly, but his little nose, bless, is a little bit more open. So we want to make sure that we have a joined up line wherever we have something that is white. Our dragonfly is pretty solid, so we don't have to worry too much about dragonfly. And same for our snail. But things like our butterfly here, we've lost some detail. We've lost detail on our frog. It looks like a green blob, and if we were to cut that out at this point, that's essentially what it's going to look like when it's cut out. So I just want to bring in a few little bits of inking. So let's go across to, let me just move my mouse out of the way. And if I bring my own stamp, so here's our frog here, so I'm just going to put some ink on that. And for our butterfly here, I'm just going to catch the nose of the hedgehog. So I'm not too worried about this back section, but the nose. And I'll just tap lightly on the snail. Now for our main image, we've got quite a strong colour there. So it's just if there's any details that we want to kind of bring out and make pop a little bit more. So some of these outside bits of foliage are a little bit pale. So if we go sort of round the outside and the bottom, then we should pull a few bits of that detail in. The butterfly itself is pretty clear, so I don't really want to go putting any more into that. Then it's just if your mushroom needs any, again, just light tap, and we'll see how that goes. So apologies for the delay in finishing off this class. I've been a little bit under the weather. Let's give that a good press down. And if you have a baffle that hasn't gone focus, there we go. I was going to say, I know it must be here somewhere. We can give that a good press. Now hopefully we have our outline perfectly lined up. So we just pulled out the detail where it goes into the shade here. We've pulled back our detail on our little leaf section here. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. Our frog is now looking more frog-like. Our butterfly, we've pulled the detail back out there, and also with our butterfly here. Now, there are a couple of gaps in our little butterfly's antennas. And if we were to just try and cut those out as is, we are going to run into a few issues. So I'm just going to grab a pen. Now, because I've used chocolate, you're going to want a chocolate fine liner or fine tip pen. And where did I put the pens over there? Long reach. Oh, there we go. I'm going to go for a flare. So this doesn't have an ultra fine point, it does have kind of a rounded tip, so we want to be really light. Okay, I'm just going to very gently blend that back in, like so. And likewise, if there's a bit that goes outside the edge of colouring, make sure that joins up too. Okay, let's sort out his little body just here, little feet. There we go. Do the same with that dragonfly, just finish off the feet there. And then you want to try and avoid fiddling too much. It's very tempting when you've got a pen to start going and redrawing all the lines, but you don't need to. Okay. A bit of shadow just in there that's just skipped. So just put that in. And the antenna up here. And this back leg there. There we go. So you should have something that looks like that. Now, let's take this off our stamp platform and it's over to our machine. So if you have any questions about how I've got to this point so far, don't forget to pop them in the comments. So I am live, so I can answer questions. And let's just close that up for a moment. I will be good and clean my stamps off, honest. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to get our cutting mat and we're going to put our card on. Now, it doesn't matter the ScanNCut which way you put this. So even if you think, well, that's upside down, it doesn't matter. What matters is where you put it on the mat. So we want to go with 1 inch in, 1 inch down. So to this point here. There we go. If you filled your A4 sheet, just so long as you've got enough of a border here, then we can go up to this point here. The important bit is that you have a gap before you get to where you want to actually cut, because we can't cut edge to edge. Okay, let's wake up our machine. Yeah, for a horrible moment then I thought it wasn't going to turn on. We have definitely had gremlins this morning. You can tell it hasn't been used for a while. So let's go to the ScanNCut screen. We're going to first of all load our mat. So press the mat load button. Okay. Now, if you have been doing some drawing, your scan glass is going to be in the up position. We want to lower it down. But if you have any areas on your mat, so let me go to the overhead. If you have any areas on your mat that are lifting, so for instance here, then just to make life a little bit easier, tape it down. Your tape doesn't have to be super sticky. It does need to hold the edge down so it doesn't catch on the scan glass as it goes through. The ones down the side don't tend to matter as much. It's that initial getting it through past that ridge on the glass. Okay, so that moment where you realise that your stars has gone missing. So I'll use fingers. So excuse fingers. Go back to the screen. And we're going to go to scan. Now in scan you have lots of options. You've got direct cut, scan to cut data, scan to USB, and it can be really confusing what the difference is between them. So direct cut means you're going to cut out the material that is currently on the mat. Scan to cut data means that you're going to scan it in and either edit the file in some way, or you're going to cut it out with something else that isn't on the mat. Scan to USB means that you can scan an image to a USB memory stick if you have one attached. And then we have transfer to the canvas workspace, which is where you can scan an image and you can transfer it either just in as a reference guide. You can take it into image tracing. Again, there's more that you can do with the desktop app than you can do with the online version as usual. Okay, so direct cut. We want to use the machine to do our trace, and it's going to say, do you want to do this black and white? Now, what it doesn't mean is the image black and white. So if you've done all of this in grayscale, you still wouldn't choose the black and white option. It's a better way of thinking of it if you've got low contrast and high contrast. So black and white is your sort of high contrast, that you've got a big difference between the item that you're cutting out and the background. Have you sorted yourself out now, camera? It's having a wobbly. Told you, gremlins in the system. The colour means that there's a low contrast, so it's going to be a bit more difficult for it to see where those lines are going to go. So if we go low contrast, where we've got something where we've got the pale paint on a pale background, then it's going to help it see that a little bit clearer. Now scan area, you can limit it to just the 12x6 if you want, if you're working in a tight area and you only want that top half of the mat. What I will say is 12x6 is a bit of a misnomer. It's more like sort of 12 by sort of 4.5, because it will skip that bottom bit up to that 6-inch mark, so just be wary of that. So 12 by 12, okay, and start. Okay, so we can see our lovely colourful tape, and then we've got our image. And again, it doesn't matter that if your image isn't perfectly straight. The only time that matters is if you're going to be using the rectangle option, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So we're going to frame our image, so we want to bring that in so that we are not quite touching our image, but also you want to make sure that you're chopping out any excess data that it doesn't need to be tracing. So pass our tape into the edge of our card, but you don't want to be cutting off your watercolour at the bottom. And he's going to have another easy fit probably. We're going to go, yeah, told you. And we're going to go okay. It decided like 15 minutes before I'm due to go live that it needed to do an update. It's like, oh, that's good timing. Tell me later. So, hence I was a little bit late going live. It's going to have a think about it and trace it and give you what it thinks you're looking for. So, then what you can see, excuse me, is the traced edge. And we can see that straight away it's cut away all of our lovely blue sky that we've done. So we need to make that a little bit different. Okay. So if we go to our contrast panel here, you're going to see that it comes up with a number of colours. Now, the more colours you have, the more lines it's going to, more colours it's going to try and line round. So if we go up and preview, let's see if that makes it better or worse. Now, it can take some time, especially if you start to put your colours up to quite high levels. It's still not picking up that blue, so let's go the other way, and we're going to go right down to 2 and preview. So what we're hoping to do by going down to 2 is it sees the white background as what it's ignoring, and it pulls everything else out. No, it's just going to be awkward. Told you, gremlins. So, if you're doing this at home and you are having issues with it finding things, I would say turn your lights off, try again. The reason I say that is it is influenced by ambient light. As much as other people say it's not, it just is. Especially if there's light around the back of your machine. Obviously, because I'm live and I can't get around there, I can't really change that. So, let's show you another way. So, most of this is cutting out okay. It's just this one I'm not happy with. So, our main image I'm not happy with. So, we can go okay. And if camera will, catch up, because I'm presuming that audio is going through the right speed, even if camera is misbehaving. Told you. Gremlins. We can go back. We can slide in our slider. And I'm going to just go to the elements that are working. Okay. We're going to go okay. It's going to do that trace again. Okay, and we're happy with these elements over here, so we'll cut those first. Now, this is what I was going to show you with the other section, so just in case I don't get a chance to show you, you have options here. You don't have to use that fussy cut outline if you don't want to. We can use an offset that's going to put a white border around the outside. So if you want to have that kind of look, you can do that so that you have like the sort of stamps and coordinating dies with the little white edge. That's how you do it. You use the offset function, which is the left button, because my camera is still being dense. The right hand button is going to enable you to cut shapes out. Now this is where having your card or your image level on your mat is going to help you out. So we've got our fuzzy cut icon is the top one. So this kind of funny squidgy shape. We can choose to swap that to a circle. So if I press that, every shape that it has found on the mat will change to have a circle around it when the camera catches up. I can see it with circles already. But it'll get there eventually. Okay. Now, what I will say is bear in mind that that circle literally goes edge to edge of your stamped image. So if you want to add an offset on that, do that next, and then you can have that bit of a gap. So if you think like stickers, you want to have your design with a bit of a border around it, use the offset. The next function is going to put a scalloped edge around your shapes. So it's still going to do it in that same circle, but you're going to have a scalloped edge around it when the camera catches up. I don't want to rush too far ahead in case it misses anything, because it keeps like rebooting on me. So let's go down. So our arrow keys on the right hand side control where we are on that scroll line just here. And we have sort of a star shape one. And again, that's going to go edge to edge. If we do an offset on that after, it's going to round those points. So that's just something to bear in mind. We have the ability to put a rectangle around it. So although it's square on the button, it's going to do it in a rectangular shape which matches the bounding box. So if you've read my book, then you'll know what I'm on about when I'm on say about bounding boxes. So rounded corners is going to put a rounded corner on now. Rounded corners are interested in that it doesn't just round off the rectangle, it kind of offsets the rectangle and then rounds the corner so that you're not losing any detail from that bounding box. We also have a scalloped box, a zigzag box. We can put hexagons around it. It's hexagons, isn't it? Me and shape names, honestly. Octagons, I know those ones. And then we have these little decorative frame ones. So they're all useful in their own way. So don't forget that you have those options to play with. Now I'm going to jump back up to the top using the double arrow, and I'm going to go back to fuzzy because what I want for these, that's fine. And I'm just going to let that cut as is. I'm not that bothered about putting an offset on. Sometimes with the offset it can help if you have lots of small details, but if it does chop off my antennas, I'm not that worried. I've tried to make it as strong as possible, but yeah. So I'm going to go to cut. Now we do have lots of detailed corners, so I am going to use my vinyl blade. And then it's going to pick up the last settings that I cut with, which to be honest is probably just fine from the state of my blade at the moment. And we can just tell it to go. Let's switch to overhead so you can see what it's doing. So we're just going to be cutting the shapes down this left hand side because we haven't quite pulled out the right hand side one yet. But my advice would be that if you are working with a temperamental scanner, and some days, some nights, it will be, then do what you can, take those off the mat, rescan it and try again. Now, what I should have done is also remember to lift the scan glass as well. Okay, so let's very gently remove these. Let's take it out altogether. It will give you a bit of a warning saying, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, because I'm going to have to rescan anyway. Okay, so let's go overhead so you can see what we're doing. And we have our snail, our hedgehog, and you're going to see with our hedgehog where we did our little bit of a shadow, we've got the shadow as well, and that's good habit to get into. So if something is going to be on the ground, give it a shadow, and we can cut that out at the same time, and then we haven't got to worry about trying to fake a shadow. Okay, let's get my hooky tool, just because my butterfly's being a bit more stubborn. There we go. So we've got that on there. Let's reapply our scan. Now I'm going to rotate this because sometimes just rotating it makes a difference. Now, if I show you one here, this is going to be an example where our mat isn't going to quite fit our card. So what I'm going to do is, rather than have my rollers go over my card, I'm going to line up this far side against that edge there, so I know it's clear my rollers. And there should be enough of a border here that we should be okay. If it's too close, then trim your card and go for it from that 1 inch mark. Okay, back through we go. I'm going to go home to reset. Okay, delete all patterns, load mat. Okay, let's see if we can get that through. Just because I know that tape's misbehaved. So it'll either go or it won't go. So I'm going to go to scan and direct cut. Use the machine again. And this time, let's try black and white and see if it can pick it up. Because we may just be able to get away with it. Okay. So, I'm going to go OK. And we want to slide this in because it's still going to see the shadows of those elements that you've already cut out. We're going to bring down that top line because we want to miss the cutting mat there. And also that left hand edge. Now, this is where you're going to see the difference between black and white and colour. You can see straight away it's not seeing that bottom bit as clearly as it should. But it's worth, as an exercise, seeing if we can sort that out. So I'm going to darken this image down. Let's see if that helps. Nope. go the other way. By doing extremes, it's always much quicker to see what is going on. Even if you then end up tweaking and going to a middle point. Come on, camera, catch up. Okay. Nope, it's really not liking that. So let's go home to reset and go back to colour. There we go. Gotcha. There. Okay. Frame it again. This was supposed to be a quick one, but there's always one, isn't there? Especially given that we haven't been live for a while. Computer's like, what do you want me to do? I don't know how to do that no more. Okay. So, remember how we had those shape options? I'm going to make use of those. Because while I could cut that out like that and then do a square. Let's do a square first. So I'm going to go down to our square. There we go. Now we can see that there's a little bit just at the top edge here that is going to be kind of cut off. And we kind of need to push that up a little bit. So I'm going to go, okay. Let's do the offset. Now, when we do the offset, we can see that we've got a secondary shape here that's appeared. Don't panic about that yet. So we're going to go, okay. And we're going to go to edit. Now, as luck would have it, when we go to edit, it's already highlighted that little box for us. So all we have to do is go bin and okay. Job done. Now, unfortunately, we can't nudge things in the same way as we can when we've actually added the design. So if we go into Zoom, you can see your nudge button's missing. Such a shame, because it would be so much easier to just go that way a little bit. And let's go and chop that out. The Watercolour is trying to curl up as well, which isn't helping with the old tracing. Okay. So I'm going to peel away our excess card, but I'm going to leave that background piece on the mat. So if I leave, so we've got just this bit here. I've peeled away that outside line, and the reason I've done that is I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to see a little bit clearer where our design is when we come to do this next step. So let's pop a little bit of tape. I don't want it too big. So it's along this bottom edge, just because it's white on white, and trying to see that on a scanner, we know is a nightmare. So if we could just give ourselves a little bit of a guide so that we know where that bottom edge is. And go back to the screen. We're going to go okay. home to reset. Now we can go to pattern, basic shapes, and then we can choose what aperture we want to go in that centre shape. So we could go for an oval or a circle. It really does depend on the design on your mat. A circle's going to work great for me, so that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to size it down, so very roughly. Let's get my ruler. I need to have a good border around it, so we're looking at about 7 centimetres, so I went a little bit too far. And I'm going to add that to my mat. Now we need to do a background scan so that we can line this up over our image. Hopefully you can all still see and hear me okay. I know Lucy's popping in and out, but you don't know. So now we need to line up that circle to our scan. So let's take this up and over the top. Now, rather than struggle with my podgy fingers, I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to go to zoom. And then you can see that we have our little move arrows back. So we can have our fingers out the way, or our stylus, if you're being well behaved and using your stylus. Come on, up we go. And we want to get that in the centre of our square as much as possible. Okay. And zoom out. It's usually when you zoom out that you can go, actually that still looks a bit off. So let's just take it up. A couple of touches there. Okay. And let's cut that out. And then we can assemble. That's good to hear, Mum. Okay. So let's go overhead while that's doing that. So I'm going to prep my little pieces here. And you're going to need some foam pads. And I use little circle ones for when I have fussy cutting like this. It just makes it a little bit easier rather than having to worry about where the corners of squares are. And super duper quick to do. These aren't going to be like load bearing, so we don't have to worry too much about support. For our hedgehog, he's a little bit bigger though. And one for the shadow. So yeah, that should be fine. I do tend to do like a light finger test just to sort of make sure that things aren't going to collapse in the post. But these should be pretty protected because our outside frame is going to pop up a little higher. Okay. So let's just check that that's actually cut. It's important to check on this one. There we go. So we have our frame and our centre. And we can unload. And that's kind of your ScanNCut done for today. So it can breathe a sigh of relief and go. Nattie's not going to pest me anymore today. Now, I have a pre-prepared card blank. And what we're going to do is we're going to raise up our frame. Now, for whatever reason, my foam tape has done a runner. So, there is me again and think, oh, that'd be nice and easy because I've got some super duper thick foam tape to go around the outside. And normally, yep, that would be. So, excuse me when I'm taking a little bit longer with lots of little bits of foam pads. But if you have some super duper thick foam tape, this is the time to use it for this outside frame. Because now I need to peel all those off, and I'm going to put another layer on top. Now all our elements that I've kind of already popped on 3D foam are going to sit sort of in the middle between the frame and the background. So that's why you need your super duper thick on the frame. If you haven't got any super duper thick, you can do what I'm doing and just double up, either with foam tape, which is the better option, or foam dots like I am doing here. Now, for speed, I'm just doing these 8 dots. But if you're posting this, please, please, please give it more support than what I'm doing at the moment. It was one of those ones where I had a plan, then everything goes in the other direction. Which is typical. But like I said, the system has been full of gremlins this morning, so it's like, I think it just has moan and a whinge about the fact that it's not getting used every day like it was before. Okay, so frame. I'm going to go with my frame first. I think it's easier if you think it's more difficult doing it this way. The other thing I should say is you could also cut out a contrasting layer of card if you want to, but I think there's going to be enough distance between. Okay. To make that pop. Now, for our circle, we're going to use some wet glue because we're going to want wiggle room. There we go. I can't believe this is running out already. I got done with this glue, I think. I was expecting bigger bottles, I'll be truthful. So I think I've got stung. Okay, so we're going to twist our circle so that it lines up. This is one of those moments where the fact that your watercolour card is slightly curly is actually a really good thing, because you can kind of get it a little bit closer and then work your adhesive out to the edges once you know that you're lined up. And you should have something that looks like this. Okay, so we've got kind of a reverse eclipse card going on. Okay, but then I've got my little critters that I just want to pop inside. Now, Mr. Hedgehog, he could go on top because he's got that shadow, but I think he's going to be a little bit too, so let's tuck him in there. He's going to poke his little head out from the frame. Now, our dragonfly, we can choose where he's going to go. Let's pop him kind of there, and he can kind of go inside and outside of our frame. And I did cut and colour more pieces than I actually need, so let's get a little snail next. He's going quite sweet, kind of. Let's pop him down in this corner, like so. And we've got little butterfly. So let's go sort of there. Would be good. We have a little frog. So I'm going to pop him just on that edge there. There you go. Don't think there's any room for that one. So what we can do is we could actually use that to bring in our sentiment if we want to. Now, usually what you'll find with my cards is I tend to use them. I'll leave them blank. So I'm going to pop that one just there. And then when it comes to putting a sentiment on it, I'll just cut that out with white card. Job done. So yeah, we have a little 3D scene with our layers in. So obviously the thicker you do your frame here, the more layers that you can get inside here. Okay. And if you wanted to do that original scan where you had your fussy cut, you could still do that and then cut out your background panel and do it that way if you want to. It's really up to you, but I just wanted to have that circle popping out the middle, and you could even make that into a shaker card if you wanted to. So there we go. And then at the weekend I found what I was originally going to do for that slot, so hopefully I'll be able to record that and you'll see that coming onto the channel soon. Now, very quickly, just to cover a few things that I've put up in the group. Basically, going forward on Facebook, there's going to be one community class a month. So if you want to kind of get involved with more than that, then you either need to join up to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that, and that's going to give you notifications of when we go live, when there's new videos that come up, or also there's a thing called community posts that you can do on YouTube. So you'll get notifications about when those go up as well. So do join in on YouTube. And then going forward, I have planned for this month another mini workshop. So that's going to be on Patreon. So that's on the lowest paid tier. So do sign up on there. And that is going to be all about junk journaling with your ScanNCut. So it could also be done with a silhouette as well for most of the things that I'm going to be doing. So do hop along to that, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. And before I go, I nearly forgot. While we're saying about things like that, there are also a couple of goodies that are up on the group for sale. So we've got different goodie bags, boxes, and then I am saying bye-bye to one of my ScanNCuts. Well, technically to Mum's ScanNCut. So if you want a ScanNCut that has lots of goodies thrown in and also some education on the side, so there you go, then that is going to be up on the group. It's a CM700. You've seen it on streams if you've been watching back through our lockdown. So it's that same machine. So she's a little bit famous. So take care and watch out for those posts, and also from the DT as well this week. So take care and bye.